Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Networking Thursday. Very glad you're with us today. It's June 8th, 2023. Please note this event is being recorded and is currently live on Facebook. The recording will be on the Career DFW Facebook page and the Career USA YouTube channel for others to view in the future. By participating in this event, you give consent for your name and picture to appear. Please note that any comments you put in the Zoom chat window will not appear in the recording. Those people on Zoom, if you have any questions throughout the presentation, please just enter them into the chat window. For those watching on Facebook, just any questions you've got, put it in the comment field. We'll be sure to get those questions answered for you. Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jeff Morris. Back in 2008, I started a website called careerdfw.org, a website to help those who are unemployed in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. In 2012, I launched a second website, careerusa.org, to help those around the United States. I have written a book called What I've Learned About Your Job Search that you may not know. It is available on Amazon, or if you see me in person, I always have copies with me. Since 2007, I've been facilitating and leading the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group. I'll tell you about our upcoming program tomorrow morning at the end of this session. And since 2017, I've been a member of the Practice Interview Team, also known as the PIT Crew. Remember, your resume and your LinkedIn profile are not going to get you a job. What they will get you is a phone call. How well you practice your interviewing skills, that's what's going to get you your next job. So for more information, just go to dallaspitcrew.com. Well, for every one of our networking sessions, we've got different speakers who talk about networking. Hey, networking is primarily the same thing. It's reaching out to other people and finding out what they do and, building a conversation, building a connection between people. That's how most jobs are found. Today, our speaker is Terry Goldfarb. She's a networking and relationship building coach. This is a pre-recorded session from last September. So I'm going to play the presentation, and then any questions you have, we'll get those answered for you at the end of this session.
So I had 8 years at Coopers & Lybrand in a business development role, and then went on to be hired by Deloitte to be part of a group they were spinning out called RGP. I was there 22 years as the Senior Director of Business Development. And what would happen is people would come in that had been past clients at Deloitte, and our managing partner kept saying, oh, you have to meet Terry, she can help you. But I had no idea what that meant at the time. But at any rate, it kind of took on a life of its own. And now we had developed formal program like this for 22 years. RGP still has me presenting these programs once a month, and then I do them for other organizations like this.
Sorry about that. Great. Please, we'll look forward to hearing your presentation today.
Great. Ready to go?
Yep. It's all yours.
Everybody got their seatbelts on? So, first, I want to take the opportunity to say thank you to Jeff. Today is National Gratitude Day, and I'm very grateful for this opportunity to participate in this and to share things that I've learned over the years. And it actually brings me to the most grateful part of this, is the fact that I have never had to look for a job. Every job I've ever had is a result of someone I've sat on a committee with for a not-for-profit or a local organization or even internally. And I did a gratitude program, kind of a personal gratitude event several years ago, reaching out to the people that either hired me, pointed me in that direction, opened the window, opened a door. And I challenge you today on National Gratitude Day to make a list of those people. And I'm going to actually cover it a little bit more in the program, but I wanted to bring it up given that this is the day. And it's a very rewarding exercise, and there's a networking component to it, quite obviously, if you're reaching out to people. But the fact is, it will fill you up quite a lot, and it will fill other people, the people you're reaching out to as well. So again, everything I've ever done, every significant person in my life or event in my life is a result of somebody I already knew. I've never been between jobs, and I just have been grateful to the people that saw things in me I didn't know I had, because in many cases, the jobs were doing things I had no idea how to do. So I encourage you to never stop networking, because you have no idea how that, actually, I'm going to go back to that. How that may help you. My very first job was as a result of my dad. He worked at Disney, for the Disney organization for Buena Vista. And we came out for the opening of Disneyland, and we got to go to the studio and meet Walt Disney. And Walt sat me on his lap and said, when you graduate high school, you can come work at Disneyland. So my first job ever was at as a result of my father. And so people forget their own family members are in a positions to open doors and open windows and push you in the right direction. So that's the first lesson I learned. Then one of the next jobs I had after Disneyland was as a result of a gal that I worked with at Disneyland. We ran into each other at a concert, and she said, "What are you up to?" And I said, "I just, recently became divorced, so I need to kind of think about my career." And she said, "You're hired." Not quite that fast, but almost. Got recruited from there to the Business Council, which is a lobbying organization here in Orange Council. It's made up, or in Orange County, it's made up of the top CEOs in Orange County. And of course, the network I developed there was huge. I was active in the Irvine Chamber of Commerce, and one time I walked into one of their programs and was greeted by an official greeter, and that created another significant event. That was my husband that greeted me. So that was a result of going to a Chamber of Commerce meeting. I was tapped by another person that I worked with at Disneyland to get involved with this new building being built, the Segerstrom Center for the Arts. It's a phenomenal multicultural performing arts center, and that has opened a million doors and windows for me. I was on a committee for fundraising for that, and somebody on the committee from Laventhal and Horwath said, "I'm leaving my job to move up north. I want to hand in my resume with your my resignation with your resume." And I got that job. And then the same thing happened to Coopers and Lybrand. So I was called by someone that I'd met at a chamber meeting, and they said the same thing. Got a job offer. I'd love to turn in your resume with my resignation. Was happily working there when I got a call from a friend who said, "I just heard about this opportunity. The CEO of the company wanted to know who would be a good fit." And I told him you, and I wound up there for 22 years. So, and I could go on and on about all the doors that it's opened for me in a million other ways. It's also even helped me save lives and help other people in ways that I could never have imagined. So I encourage you to be open to meeting people, getting to know people in every realm, and you have no idea where that's going to show up in your life. So I'm interested in the chat real quick, if there's one or two stories or that you folks have that you can share about ways networking has enriched your life. I'll let you put something in real quick.
Yep, you're welcome just to unmute your mic.
Yep, that's true.
Networking got me a job 5 years ago.
And tell us a little bit more.
That's a little bit. Well, I met somebody at Southlake Focus Group, just talking. He was, talking about each other as we do in those kind of meetings. And he and they were the first two gentlemen I met at Southlake Focus Group, I should add. And both of them started saying, "Oh, they're hiring. Oh, look, if you see something, I'll send your resume in." So I never even heard of the company. One of them mentioned, I looked, I saw something. I sent him my resume. He gave it to some other guy he knew, saying he was impressed with me, and he put it under the nose of the guy who was my manager for the last 5 years. So
Awesome.
it was total chance. The first two guys I met there.
Excellent. Anybody else want to jump in with the story? Nope. Okay. So networking, a lot of people kind of quiver when they hear the word networking. And so what I have found, most people's fears are, it's a terrible time to network, especially during COVID. I had a lot of resistance to networking during COVID because people said you couldn't, and I'm here to dispute that. They maybe said the job market was weak. Right now, it is not weak at all, at least not out here. I don't know what it's like there. People feel awkward reaching out to people. They feel like they're intruding on them or bothering them, or they don't have a strategy. They can't figure out, where do you start? And then there's other reasons that people have fears. I mean, people that are more introverted and so forth. So we're going to address these and hopefully get you over and past that anxiety so that you can embrace it and hopefully really enjoy it. We're going to discover our goals are, we're going to discover why you should be networking, how to overcome the awkwardness when reaching out to people, how to nurture the network and the relationships by compartmentalizing and annualizing, and then a little bit on how to develop a strategy. So basically unlocking the secrets to networking during or even after a pandemic. And I'm going to touch on it because we don't know what this winter is going to hold. And also people, the work environment's different now than it was before the pandemic. There's not as many networking events. Some people are still reticent to go out, and flu season's coming up. And so there's a lot of reasons why people are now doing way more on Zoom or staying home than ever before. So the trick is, or the secret is, you don't realize that people around the planet have been feeling very alone, very scared, very worried, very nervous, and reaching out to other people. You're basically opening the door and giving them an opportunity to connect. And so I encourage you not to be reticent about that, because you really are helping other people feel less isolated, less afraid, more involved, and recognized, and so on and so forth. It's a very powerful time to reach out to other people, and you won't have anybody not want to talk to you, because they are excited that you've thought about them, you've remembered them during this time period, because in many cases it's been years since we've seen people, and they really appreciate the fact that someone's called and said, hey, I was just thinking of you, and I just wanted to see how you're doing. That alone is going to score you. It will take you a long way, and people will want to help you as you get down the road of that relationship. So the secret to reconnecting with long lost contacts, of course, is just caring about them. The secret to networking your way around a down job market is people want to help you, especially people that you know. People far more want to help people they know than people they don't know, and they in a much better position to do so. The secrets to developing and executing strategy is basically doing your homework. And we'll talk about that more in a moment. And then the secret to staying healthy during a pandemic, this is going to sound very funny, is actually this act of reaching out and connecting. Simon Sinek, I've got a little bullet down there at the bottom of the page. If you have never heard of him, he's got the top TED Talks on YouTube. And one of the top listened to TED Talk is about gratitude. Again, very appropriate today. And it's about the fact that when you express gratitude to other people, it actually, you release hormones that help you mentally, emotionally, physically. And when they receive the reach out, they release hormones that do exactly the same thing. And then ironically, and this is so fun in his talk, when you see their gratefulness for them, for you reaching out to them, you once again are releasing those hormones. And it's a little bit like a ping pong game, but it's a very, very healthy thing to do. And so if for no other reason, you think of it as like a vitamin, and it absolutely reduces isolation, stress, loneliness, and so forth. There's no downside to reconnecting with people. So the route we're going to take now is real quick. We're going to talk about networking in a little bit more depth. We're going to talk about the 3 premises, and introduce you to the networking matrix that I've been sharing for years. Then talk about a very unstructured solution to networking, and more about maintaining and nurturing your network and the strategy. So I want to redefine networking. A lot of people have a hard time, as I said a minute ago, about the word. It just sends quivers down their spine. So I want you to redefine it. Get rid of the word networking and just think of it as reconnecting. I'm going to go reconnect with some friends. I'm going to go connect with some friends. You don't ever have to use the networking word again, ever. And if you hear it, just do an automatic mental substitution, because you really don't even need to meet one more new person. You already know more people than you'll ever have time to reconnect with, especially when I get through giving you all of this information. And it really is from this group of people that it's more likely your opportunities will come from, maybe not directly, but indirectly. You talk to somebody, they hear about something through somebody else, and they refer them to you, and that's how it happens. So whether it's colleagues, neighbors, committee members, family, people you went to college with, people you hired to provide services to your company, it doesn't matter. They're people that you know. So we're gonna, again, it's reconnecting. Just put that word up on near your monitor, and just so you remind yourself day after day that you need to reconnect with people. And you'll find that your networking, or your reconnecting activity will absolutely take off and blossom. So why connect with old friends, neighbors, family, and colleagues, and others? Basically, you have a history with them and a bond. So they already have warm, fuzzy feelings towards you, and obviously you towards them, hopefully. So there's none of that dating time that you have to deal with. You have a relationship, and people are going to be very open to a call, an email, a text, or whatever it is. You have shared experiences, and those are the most fun things to reconnect with people on. And then again, it releases the happy hormones. So one of the things that's been really fun about this, I'm talking about shared experiences. So many of us during the pandemic cleaned out our garages and our closets and stuff. And I've gone through boxes and boxes of old pictures, and I got in the habit, and it wasn't intentional. I wish I could say it was that smart, but I'd see a picture of somebody that maybe I was on a committee with, or that I went and did something fun with, or we went zip lining, or we went to a play, whatever it was. And I just snapped a picture right then and there of the picture. And then I sent it to them right then and there. That person responded with, "Oh, wow, how fun to hear from you." And all I said in that email was, or that text was, "Look what I just found. Just was thinking of you. How are you doing?" That's all I said. And it elicited this great response. We wound up having a great conversation and caught up and connected. So I've been doing those as a result a lot, because I'm still going through boxes of pictures. And I sent one last night to the general counsel of a major company, and I hadn't seen him in 25 years. He sent a note back going, like everybody else does, "Wow, good to hear from you. I can't even recognize myself." But it has fun responses, and people love receiving those kind of pictures. So it's the easiest way in the world to reach out to people. So go through your pictures and just start sharing them with people. I don't care if it was a week ago, a year ago, or a decade ago. So one of the things, this is probably the easiest exercise in the world. You don't have to do it right now, but I encourage you to do it right after the program. This is a great starter list for your activities to get out there and reconnect with people. Just write down 2 or 3 of the people that were your best friends in college. Who was your favorite neighbor, whether it was growing up or last week? Who was your favorite boss or employer? And it could be anywhere. It could be your first boss, or it could be the one you're working with right now. Who was a role model for you? Maybe they know they were a role model. Maybe they don't know that they were a role model. Maybe it's somebody that you've never met, but you just admired. Maybe it's somebody that you've worked closely with. Doesn't matter. Who helped you the most over your career? Was it a mentor, a coworker, an employer? Write down that person. And then who referred you or hired you or gave you a promotion in every job you've ever had? So go through your resume and just write down the names of everyone responsible for every single job you got. And whether it was just the hiring person that hired you, even if you didn't know them before, but they did hire you, or whether it was somebody you knew prior to that, opportunity. And then reach out to those people. Again, today's National Gratitude Day. This is a chance to reach out to every one of these people and say, and as far as I'm concerned, you can say it's National Gratitude Week or month. You can milk it as long as you want, or you can just say, I just have, going through a great gratitude exercise, and just tell them, I thought about this category, I thought about you, and I wanted to thank you for making a difference in my life. And that will release so many happy hormones. I cannot tell you. People will be so flattered and they'll be so touched that after all these years, or even at this busy time now, whatever it is, that you took the time to acknowledge the difference that they made in your life, regardless of how small you think it is, it's big to somebody else. And so if you did nothing else with this exercise, it will provide you with some wonderful activity. Any questions about that particular exercise? And again, you can do it after the program. You don't have to do it now, but I just, the fact that it's National Gratitude Day is really appropriate. So what are the most important skills for networking or reconnecting? And if you'd like to quickly shout out a couple of things that you think are important skills to have, I'd love to hear what you think they are. Anybody want to take a stab at what some of the skills are important for connecting with people? No?
I'll jump in with one, Terry.
Okay, thanks, Laura.
Being other directed and putting them first before yourself.
Exactly. That's a very good one. Thank you so much. People think that networking or this activity is important so that you can ask them for something. And the fact is, the number one rule or recommendation for this type of activity is to give something first. And we're going to talk about that. Here we go. Being authentic is really important, and really listening with intent, so that, and showing that you're listening is really important. Caring is, as you said, is really important. Adding value in some way, whether it's sending them, as you're opening up this dialogue with them, whether it's sending them a link to a TED Talk you think is great, whether you saw an article you think they'd be interested in, whether you heard about an event you think they'd be interested in, whether it's a play or a business event. Maybe they're looking for a dog and the dog that's looking for a home. It could be anything. But the more you can add value for the other person, the more appreciative they'll be, and the more you will have a real connection. Being appreciative, that's different than just being grateful. Really expressing to them the difference that they made to you at whatever event or activity that was, is very powerful. Being curious is also goes in with that active listening and being interested part. As Walt said, be more about them. Ask them questions about themselves. Ask about, things that that they're about. Ask about things you don't know what they're about. What are you up to now? How's the family? What brought you here today? Anything about them. Do not talk about yourself. Do not think about yourself, but really be authentically appreciative, grateful, and caring as you are talking and connecting with these other people. And they'll think you're amazing. It's funny because I don't think they actually are cognizant. So if you think you're being awkward, or that's showing that you're trying to do this, I don't think you need to worry about that. People love to talk about themselves. They love people to be interested in who they are and how they are. So just make that, again, this is another list I encourage you to print and stick up near your monitor. And when you're connecting with people, whether it's on the phone or online, it will remind you to ask them questions about themselves and to be actively listening. And what does that mean? Actively listening is, cocking your head, nodding, and doing some hand gestures and things that show that you're alive. It's also looking at them in the eyes, and it's not like looking around all the time when they're talking. So actively listening means exactly that, focusing on that person and what they're saying and responding with some kind of gesture or look or question that shows them that you're there and present. So this is something that's really a very important list for you to embrace and to keep front and center. So there's three premises that most people don't know about when they're networking, and that's important. So why you should be networking. Statistics really validate the need for reconnecting. And people are more likely to help people they know, but how do you identify everybody you know? And then the last one is something that people don't really think about, and it's kind of the secret. Service providers, vendors, past coworkers are your best network. And why is that? So we'll talk about that. First of all, the statistics. 72 to 85% of all jobs are found through networking, not online. People don't realize that, and I get challenged. This slide doesn't show the source for that, but I have another slide and I've added that. So I've found it in Forbes, Newsweek, any number of sources that range has been consistent for years and years and years. And it doesn't matter if you're 26-year-old, 46-year-old, 66-year-old, the jobs are found through networking. 75% of resumes are rejected before they ever reach a hiring manager because of the applicant tracking system. If it's looking for keywords. It doesn't care if you're the best, fill in the blank than anybody in the world. They're just looking for keywords. And if you don't have it, you just get rejected, which is why it's so important to have somebody, walk in that resume or send it over to the person that might be able to put it in front of people that have real eyeballs and will see it and hand carry it on. Really, really important. 82% of the highest level jobs are never posted. Not at all unusual for the hiring executive, regardless of what level or what field it is, to be talking to somebody at lunch saying, yeah, I need to make a change. I need to hire an additional person for this role, or somebody's leaving and I need to fill that up. That's just what's happening. And so if you know of anybody, let me know. This is a conversation that oftentimes HR doesn't even know is happening. So what will happen is that person will think of somebody, fly a resume over to them, and then boom, the next thing you know, they've landed a job. So this happens every single day. If you go to any restaurant, look around the room, I promise you that dialogue is going on somewhere in that room at every restaurant on the planet, and people are landing opportunities because somebody's spread the word on their behalf. 54% of employers have rejected candidates based on their social media profiles. I'm hoping I'm not talking to anybody here that's happened to, but that's a real problem. See, I know that the world's become highly political and people are posting things about their opinions, and I encourage you not to do that. 5% of jobs are found through job boards and networking events. That's referred to as the apply and hope method. And yes, you can still look at the job boards and you can still go to networking events. They're not useless at all. In fact, if you see a job posted and then you can figure out who it's with, then you go to your network and you find out who knows people there. You go to LinkedIn, you talk to your friends, and so on and so forth. So you can identify opportunities, but you need help getting through to them. And then networking events, there's always going to be people that you'll connect with, but the fact is it's a crapshoot. You walk into a room, you don't know who you're going to meet, you don't know if they can help you, and that person doesn't know you. They're there for the same reason you are, to get business or to get help from somebody else. So it's just not the best method, but it doesn't mean that it will never happen for you there. So read between the lines, these are all things that reasons why you should be networking, because the statistics and so forth support it. Then reading between the lines, back to that other point, was The job you want may never be advertised. We talked to that already. You don't need to meet even one more person. We've talked to that already. The strategy then is if you spend 85% of your time on proactive strategies, like identifying targets, of people that you need to talk to, reaching out to people you already know, that's where your activity is going to provide result. When I say targets, people, targets of people you already know. And then spend the remaining 50% of time on things like searching online. But this is the strategy that will prove much more valuable to you, as opposed to just feeling like you need to go to networking event after networking event or call people you don't know. And so has proven itself time and time again. Now, one of the things I said that the secret was service providers, people you worked with, and people you have common bonds with. But the trick is, I told you that you don't need to meet one more person and that you don't know how many people you already know. This exercise is going to prove to you how many people you know, and it's going to help you identify and surface these people, and then we'll apply the strategy to getting in front of them. So service providers and vendors are hugely important. They are the trusted advisors of management. So who am I talking about? I'm talking about the accountants, the attorneys, the insurance people, the commercial real estate people, the services or facilities people, anybody that services or that's paid a money to take care of something in your business, regardless of what it is. I don't care, and maybe you haven't hired them, but maybe the company has, but you interact with them. So the service providers are really important because it's their business to know what's going on in the business community. They know everybody. They have huge networks. They are all very active networkers. People don't realize that. And they belong to very, very tight networking groups themselves. And they meet all the time, probably once a month. And what happens in those meetings is they share stuff about what they're seeing in the marketplace, locally, regionally, globally, it doesn't matter, but they all have reasons to share what they're seeing so that they can all have their thumb on the pulse of what's happening in the business community or the business world. But what happens every time these groups get together, one of them will say, hey, my client, ABC company, is looking for a fill in the blank. If any of you know anybody that might be a fit, let me know. Or they might say, my former client at ABC company is looking for their next opportunity. That company got acquired, so that person is in transition, and they are a great fill in the bank. If you know any company that could use somebody like that. This is what happens among these people every day of the week. And they know where the opportunities are. They know who the buyers are. They know who you need to know. So make sure that you identify these people, either that you have relationships with or that your first degree relationships have relationships with, that can plug into them because they know where everything is happening. Then direct reports, colleagues and superiors. Once again, these are people that know you, that have worked alongside of you. They know what your strengths are. They trust you and they want to help you. And then other people with common bonds could be company alumni, college alumni, your religious organization or philanthropic groups, trade organizations, civic, or anything you do for fun, whether it's biking or golfing or bowling, gardening, doesn't matter. And your kids and neighbors. We're going to talk specifically about some of this. So that leads us to the networking matrix. This is an extremely time-consuming project, but it's going to give tremendous rewards to you. So the way you actually utilize this, and there's 3 pages, it goes down to 3 screens, is you take your resume, you print this matrix out, and then you have a letter tablet all in front of you. And this is just used as a GPS system. You're going to kind of go across the screen and then look at the categories, and then you're going to write the information on the tablet. It's a brain dumping exercise. It gains momentum as you start doing it. I tell people, actually, I implore people, lock your cell phone in another room. You don't want to be interrupted because you start getting the momentum going and you answer the phone or you decide to look something up and you're going to lose it. And this is too important because you're going to get gems out of this. So you're going to look at your resume, and where it says ABC Incorporated on the matrix, that represents the last company you were at. So on the tablet, you're just going to write the name of the last company you were at the top. And then these blue categories, you can change those to reflect whatever line of work you in. These are in. These reflect the types of people you interact with in your role, in your job. It may be all, the public, maybe you're in retail, or, you might be an artist and it might be buyers. So this is going to be different for everybody. I put a lot of different categories here, but again, you need to kind of fill these in with the types of people you interact with. So that will be helped by this exercise down the left. So under ABC company that you've put down on the tablet, you have, hopefully, if your resume is like most people's, you have some bullets that listed your accomplishments and skill sets. So let's pretend that the very first bullet under ABC says that you helped with acquisition due diligence. Well, you didn't do that by yourself. You probably had an accounting firm help you. You probably had a banker helping you, attorneys helping you. You had people reporting to you or that you're reporting to when you just did that one bullet. So you write those names down. Then maybe the next bullet said you integrated that acquisition. Well, you work with totally different people. If you're integrating an acquisition, now you're maybe consolidating real estate properties, you're consolidating benefits, and you're having to, coach people out, anything, you don't know, maybe you're hiring, it just doesn't, whatever it is, it's going to be different people than you interacted with here. And then you help the company go public. Well, guess what? You probably had to bring in a different partner from the accounting firm, a different partner from the law firm, and so on and so forth. So you working with different people for every single bullet on your resume. And if you isolate it bullet by bullet, and a trick that I learned is shut your eyes. Picture who sat around the table, who sat across from you at your desk, who was in the meeting room when you were working on this. And that will help you think of people and do not prejudge. Say, oh, that person can't help me or that person's no good. I'm going to tell you some stories that's going to absolutely dispute that. But this is, oops, sorry. Oops. There, sorry. That's going to just have no idea who's going to hear of that one piece of information that's going to make your life easier. So don't prejudge. So then you go to the next company that you worked for, DEF company, and the same thing, you go bullet by bullet, go through your entire resume. Now, some of you might be kind of senior and you think, oh, 30 years ago, that's not going to happen. Well, I'm going to tell you it will happen. So don't prejudge. Just put everything down. If you want to prioritize people in order when you start reaching out to them, that's fine. But don't assume somebody from 20 or 30 years ago is not going to want to, might hear of an opportunity for you or have a suggestion. So don't prejudge. That's big rule. Then you look down at the trade organizations. A lot of people belong to all kinds of different trade organizations. If you're in the accounting world, maybe you belong to the Financial Executives International or the Financial Executives Networking Group. If you're in HR, maybe it's the Human Resources Association, and marketing, the same thing. So most people have some kind of trade organization that they could be involved with or participate in or already do. If you're on that board or on a committee, be sure you capture the people that you sit on the board or the committee with. Or maybe you just hang out with the same people at the meetings. That's fine. Capture those people so that you are capturing the people that already know you and love you. Oops, my mouse is extremely sensitive. Civic organizations, regardless of what it is, same thing. If you're on a committee or if you go to meetings with the same people, capture the names of those people. philanthropic organizations. Maybe you're involved in American Heart Association or your local museum or Make-A-Wish, whatever it is that you've been involved with historically or today. It doesn't have to, even if it was a long time ago, it's people that you know, had a relationship with. Capture the names of those people. Obviously, if you were on the board or the committee, make sure you capture them. Your religious organization that you might be involved with, maybe on the building committee or the babysitting committee, it doesn't matter. Or you just hang out with people there, that's fine, but capture that. And this one is where I get a lot of pushback. College alumni. I know it's hard, first of all, for me, it was hard to think of even remember people from college, but then if you start, you only need to remember a couple. It isn't like you need to remember everybody, but maybe people you lived with or people that you hung out with or people you walked to class with, doesn't matter. But, and then if you went to graduate school, bingo, you've got 2 schools to pull from. So first of all, make sure you join the Alumni Association. And then they give you access to both, you know, big alumni events that they have, and they'll put you in touch with local people that have maybe hold local alumni events. And especially as you get a little bit further into your career, these people become a little bit more important. It's kind of fun to reconnect with people from the good old days. Now, I didn't lose anything at college. I really wasn't very active with people there, but it still turned out to be a really fun reconnection. One story I'm going to share with you is when I was working at RGP, there was a company that we were targeting, and this was before LinkedIn. So I didn't know if I knew anybody there, and I was having the cold call. So I did a look of their board of directors, and I did a look on their website of their management team. And I read the profiles that were posted on their website of those people. The general counsel of this one company, I read it, all of the resumes, or the profiles all the way down. And the last line said he went to University of Missouri, and that's where I went to college. And I thought, well, this will be interesting. And so I called the company, I asked for him by name, I got his secretary, she said, he's on the phone, he might be a while, do you want to hold? Yes, I'll hold. And she said, can I tell him who's calling? And I said, well, he won't know me. And he's probably never heard of the company that I work for. But tell him I'm a University of Missouri alum. Because we're in California. There's very few University of Missouri alums in California. Trust me. And so I was on the phone a really long time, and I thought for sure she'd just sent me into Never Never Land. But eventually I heard this click, and this voice came over the phone that said, "Go Tigers." Now, do you think I had a little bit of an instant bond there? Yes. So we talked for 15 minutes about when you were there, where did you live, which pizza place did you hang out at? We had the same econ professor. In fact, there's a huge chance we were in the same class because it was a big auditorium. And then he said, what can I do for you? And I said, I'd love to bring my team in to meet you. Because if you don't know who we are and what we do, you'll never call us. He said, okay. It was the easiest appointment I ever got. I walked in, I extended my hand to shake his hand, and he gives me a hug. We sit down, he talks to me for another 5 minutes, all about Missouri, ignoring the others. And then finally he looked at them and he says, okay, tell me what you got. It was a great meeting. He became a client, and to this day, he's a friend. And I didn't know him in college, and now he's a friend. So go figure. But these relationships are bizarre. I wish I could explain the chemistry that happens, but people love that connection. And so just find anything to connect on. Another friend of mine here, a CFO here in town, went to his college alumni event back at Wharton, one of the big schools back east. And he was meeting people, and he met this gentleman who had been in the Disney organization at Disney World in a key finance role. And he said to him, oh, I have a friend in California that used to work for the Disney organization, and her father even, worked for Walt. And this guy said, wow, I've been in the organization, 15 years, and I've never met anybody who actually knew Walt Disney. And so he said, well, I'll introduce you to her. And oh, by the way, she coaches executives in transition. So he did an email introduction and then told me to send this guy the picture of me with Walt. And I did, and we connected, and we talked to each other on the phone. We talked, about people we might know in common at the Disney organization today, my history with the organization, his history with the organization. And I wound up coaching him on, finding his next role. Well, one of the things I told him, since he wanted to stay on the East Coast, was to go back to the alumni organization, make sure he joined, and to, start connecting with some of these people, because a lot of them are still on the East Coast. So he did that, and in 6 weeks, he connected with somebody who gave him a lead, and he wound up in a senior VP role and stayed on the East Coast. That was because he went to his alumni organization. So I'm telling you, these are real stories, and I wish I'm not that clever to be able to make them up. Company alumni, a lot of companies have formal alumni programs, and if they don't, form your own. I have a fun one story. There's a gentleman who was the CIO of a big multi-billion-dollar company out here 25 years ago, and he had big teams of people that they were young, and they worked for him for a couple of years on different projects. And then he left and went to other companies, and this is 25 years later. He's finds himself in transition, and he came through this program, and he identified people that he had on his teams a long time ago, and decided just to send out an email to them and said, let's have a reunion, let's meet for pizza at, ABC Pizza Place. So they did, and that night, one of the gals who had been very young when she was on his team, and guess what? 20 years later, you forget they grow up, and you forget they have their own networks, and they have their own careers and their own connections. So you have to get the picture you have of them from a long time ago and bring it into to the current time. She said, guess what? Tomorrow I'm going up to LA and having lunch with Bob. And he said, well, tell Bob hi. He hadn't talked to Bob in years himself. And so the next day she said, oh, guess what? Jim had this pizza party last night, and he said to tell you hi. He said, what's he up to? He said, well, he's actually looking for a job, his next job. So he asked for his contact information, and when she left to, go back home, he reached out to him. And they got together several times for lunch and wound up hiring him. This was 6 years ago. It's one of the largest CIO jobs on the planet. And it's because of somebody who was way junior than him, and that he had reached out to during this process. So again, these are real stories, and I encourage you to take them to heart. I was on a fundraising activity for our Segerstrom Center for the Arts. While it was being built, there were these fundraising groups all over the county. They were doing everything from having bridge games and raising money to bake sales and raising money. And we had a young professionals group, and we decided to put on an elite triathlon. Now, none of us had ever participated in a triathlon, but we hire a company to do the logistics and guide you through it. And as a board and as a committee, our job was to raise the money for it through sponsorships. So this group became very cohesive. We wound up working very closely together. And of course, the day of the triathlon, we had to be there at like 6 a.m. to lay down cones and tie off the track and all this stuff. And we had promised the city that we would have, that was the course was on, that we would leave it the way we found it. Well, that day was the hottest day of the year. It was 110 degrees in Mission Viejo that day. And in the morning, when we got there at 6 a.m., we found out that the trash disposal people went on strike. So no one was going to be coming when the event was over to pick up the paper towels, the plastic bottles, and all the crap that gets laid on a course during a major event. There were 2,000 people there. So we, 30 of us, had to walk that course afterwards and pick up every plastic bottle, every paper cup, every paper towel that was all along the track. It was so hot out, we actually looked like we just walked out of a lake, but we didn't. But we sat down at the local pizza place afterwards, and of course we were exhausted and just hideous looking. And we started laughing, one of those laughs that you can't stop, you just start laughing and you're just crying that you're laughing so hard. Very bonding opportunity. So 6 months later, I get a call from one of the gals on the committee and she said, hey, my husband's been transferred to San Francisco and I wanted to hand in your resume with my resignation. And I said, I don't even know what you do. And she told me about her job. And I said, I'm not qualified for that job. She said, yeah, you are. She said, I worked alongside of you for 2 years on these triathlons and you have all the qualifications that are needed. I can teach you the rest. I'll be here for a month overlapping you and we're the right person. And I got that job. So that's because I was on a committee. You show what your stuff is a lot of times when you're on committees. You meet other people that are in influential roles. So I encourage you not to discount anything that you're involved with and to maximize the relationships that you have with these people. Then sports, I laugh. There's these big bike groups that ride down Pacific Coast Highway every weekend all the way to San Diego. And I talk to some of the bike riders and I say, so do you know the other bikers pretty well? And they go, yeah, I said, so you know where they work and what they do? Well, no, but they know the brand of shoes they wear and the kind of tires they have on their bike. So I encourage them, get to know the bikers, go get hamburgers afterwards or go stop and get, something to drink or whatever, but get to know them personally, riding back and forth with them for hours. And I know that it's hard to talk on a bike, but talk afterwards. So several of them, like duh. So some of them have had some really fun success with that. Same thing with hobbies and so forth. So a hobby story is, there's a gal that had been the CFO of Disneyland, and she retired from that job, and she used to knit, and she was in a knitting store, and in the knitting store was another woman, and she was a general counsel. She had just relocated to Southern California. She was the trailing spouse. Her husband had taken a job here. She was going to do some just legal consultant, but she had no network here. So they were talking about this, and my friend said, I'm happy to make some introductions for you. So she had taken her resume and sent it out to several people in her network. I received that email. And that day, as I'm opening this email, and timing is everything, a gentleman walked by in front of my office and I called him in. That was his first week at our company. And he was launching our legal services consulting practice. I did not know for sure what the profile was of the consultants he was going to be looking for, but I showed him his resume and he said, she's spot on. She was our first legal consultant. We put her out immediately on roles. She was busy for several years. And then our own assistant general counsel went out on maternity leave. We brought her inside and she was our AGC for a period of time. Our general counsel got promoted to CEO. That person is now our general counsel. And that's because she was talking to somebody in a knitting shop. So these are all real stories and all why you should be talking to people that you already know or you have an opportunity to meet and not prejudge them. And then family. I told you, my own father got me my first job, and you can probably say that about your own families quite a bit. And my neighbors across the street, their uncle owns a eyeglasses shop. So he hired one of the boys across the street. And one of the clients that came in all the time ran a cybersecurity program that teaches cybersecurity to people wanting to change fields. So he wound up taking that course, and now he's actually doing really well in the cybersecurity world. But it was his uncle that hired him into that role. So just use this matrix after you've written down these names, and don't get hung up. Maybe remember the first name, but not the last name, but the first. Write down whatever you can remember. Maybe you can't think of either name, but you can remember that the person's a redhead with glasses. Just write that down. You know how the mind is. At some point, it'll probably pop up and you'll be able to recall it. And then after you've got through, ended this exercise, you can go back and fill in the last names, the first names, and find out where they are. You've got Facebook, LinkedIn. Just Googling alone will pretty much find you 90% of the people. in LinkedIn, when you look in their contact information, so many people have their personal phone numbers in there now. But if not, you just reach out to them through LinkedIn, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Oh, looking at the time. So then you dump all these names into your contacts, but also wanted to let you know, I don't know if you're aware that your LinkedIn can be downloaded into Excel, and I encourage you to do that, and then you can dump these into that Excel sheet as well until you've connected with them on LinkedIn. So that will help you manage this, and you can add a column at the end that's notes so that you can write down if you've connected, when you've connected, and any particular things you want to remember about that person. So now you've got this massive, and it'll be much larger than you think. I mean, I promise you it'll be at least 20 people. It could be 200 people, but depends what field you're in. But you're going to identify people you haven't thought about, that you already know, that already know you, and it'll be, I promise it'll be rewards. So now, how to reconnect? First of all, go into their LinkedIn or Google or Facebook, find out something about them that you can put in the notes section. Maybe they are bike riders, maybe they are knit, like to knit, whatever it is, it's scuba divers. Maybe they're in the same field of work you are now. It doesn't matter. Write down something so that you know something about them, a shared interest, a shared memory, something to reconnect you with. And then send them something, send them a TED Talk or a link from a picture from your past, like I was just talking that I've been doing, or maybe somebody you think that they should meet because they're in a field that somebody you know is in, and maybe they could help each other. And all you have to do, if you don't want to even do any of that, is reach out to them and say, I was just thinking about you. I just want to know how you're doing. You don't need to say anything else, and they will probably get back to you. If they're one of the people that was on that original sheet that I was talked about, that maybe, helped you find a job or whatever, this is the time to say, I thought about you and wanted to thank you for the difference you made doing X, Y, Z. And this is, a thank you note. So what you don't want to do is you don't want to say, I'm looking for a job. Can you help me find a job? Can you introduce me to this person? Do not do that, and don't have expectations. You've got to be on the giving end, the reconnecting end, the authentic, caring, grateful end. I promise you, when you engage in a meaningful conversation with somebody, they are going to say at some point, what are you up to? What are you doing now? And you don't need to blur it out. I'm unemployed looking for a job. You say, oh, I've got, 3 kids, 2 of them are in college. I'm living in XYZ now, and catch them up on things that are not job related right now. And then you can talk to them a little bit more about the career part, but don't leap at the opportunity to tell them that that's why you reached out to them. Really try to be authentic and caring. So this is the strategy here that will serve you well, no matter what you're doing and what it's for. Then the unstructured solution, the matrix was very structured, and it will take you a long time. And I encourage you to set aside a few hours a day until you get pretty well through it and just tackle it. Because once you've started it, once you've tackled it and actually start working it, it will reap rewards you won't even be able to stay in touch, stay on top of. But then you talk to anybody, you have no idea. I told you about the knit shop story, and I laughed. Virtually everybody goes to a barbershop or a beauty shop, gets their hair cut, their beard trimmed, or whatever it is. And those people are doing other people that are probably in fields that might be interesting to you. So let the people that cut your hair know what you're doing. Let them know you're looking for a job, and you're looking for people that might be in this industry or that industry or this field or that field. You have no idea. And don't prejudge these people. And it's easy for you to think, oh, beauty shop. Well, my husband's best friend was a female barber. She only did men. She only did executive men. She only cut hair for executive men. And her own husband was the chairman of the board of a local bank. You cannot prejudge people. You have no idea who people are and who they know. And we talked about fledglings, the people that were younger when you were younger and now have grown up and become their own successful self. Incumbents, and you think, why would I reach out to an incumbent that's in a job that I want? You don't know what's in that mind of that person. Maybe they know they're being moved to, to Southern California for a different role. Maybe they know they're getting ready to retire in a year. Maybe they get calls from recruiters saying, we're doing a search for someone that looks like you. Are you interested? Or do you know anybody that might be? And the recruiter is hoping first that the person will say, I might be interested, but if they say, no, I'm not interested, but I know somebody that you might want to talk to. And recruiters are hoping for that kind of a reaction. So you want to make sure that don't leave someone that's in a job similar to what you want off your list, because they are the ones that get the calls from the recruiters. We talked about the committees, so don't prejudge people. And then how do you stay in touch with these people? First of all, you have to identify who they are. Then you have to do the reach out. And how do you do that? Then you have to, this is also part of the reach out, but it's also part of the compartmentalizing, annualizing, and keeping in touch. I do things with groups of people, and it's so much easier to keep in touch. My Coopers and Librarian people, I organize a pizza party every year during lunchtime. Everybody pays their own way. They chip in a $20 bill and we have pizzas and salads. Everybody reconnects. People connect on jobs every year, even not when they're looking for a job, because everybody knows what they're cut from. They know what their skills are. So that's every year. I have the same flyer. All I do is change the date, copy and paste the emails and send it. It takes 5 minutes. I have several neighbors that come over for ice cream several times during the year. They always say yes when I invite them over for ice cream, and several toppings, some of which are adult-oriented toppings, like just like Grand Marnier, or what's the cherry? Anyway, the fruity kind of liqueur toppings. We love the adult toppings. I've had bake cake breaks in the summertime. I'll just decide to make some cupcakes and I send an email out to some of the neighbors and say, take a cupcake break at 2. And next thing I know, I've got 15 people in my front yard. Invite the people on either side just over for a glass of wine. It doesn't have to be complicated, but if you think of it like neighbors, people I've worked with, whatever, and do something on some kind of a regular basis, whether it's once a month, once a quarter, once a year, it doesn't matter, but you can do it easy by having the emails ready and developing this spreadsheet with email addresses and so forth. It makes it very, very easy. Maybe the people you went to college with, you do what's it called? The back seat, in the back of the car, the barbecue and stuff before a game, or you have people over to watch a game. Great opportunities to get together with people that you went to college with, or that went to the college you went to. You don't even have to have known them. I have a bunch of sorority gals that we do a spa day every year, and the only requirement is that we make sure we meet for lunch, in the restaurant at the spa, and then everybody schedules their own, services either in the morning or the afternoon. Everybody looks forward to that. Same thing, same flyer or email, and I just change the date, copy and send. And then the pizza parties, that's the like the Coopers and Librarian one. So there's all kinds of things you can do. You can have a game night, you can have a sports night, you can do a barbecue. I walk a lot. I love to walk, and I have all different kinds of people I walk with, and I have a list of all the people I walk with, and I'll invite 2 or 3 people to walk. They don't necessarily know each other. They love meeting new people. And I pair off people that would, probably enjoy one another. Hiking, same thing. So these are all activities that you can do, and they're fun. And you are, adding value to all of these people by bringing together other people, and you're the one pulling them together. So you are giving them a gift, and you're not doing something distasteful or that you don't like to do. then you have to maintain and nurture this, or, all of this stuff that you've been doing. So emails and texts, just was thinking of you. If you post on LinkedIn once in a while, or like things that people post in, just, then they know you're alive, you popped up on the radar, which is important. You don't have to, given them a huge gift for them to remember you, but if you like something that they've posted, they'll see that and they'll remember you. Or reshare something they posted, or maybe post something yourself, like a TED talk that you like, an article that you saw that might be relevant. Anything, but posting on LinkedIn will keep you in front of recruiters, in front of other people, and if you have a lot of people in your LinkedIn, you'll pop up in front of all these people with one posting, even if it's just a like or a share. So I encourage you to do that. During COVID, I had a lot of virtual lunches. Now we're eating out a lot more, but I'm actually having a virtual cocktail with somebody next week. So they live in a different area, and it's too far to meet. So we're doing it online. Now everybody's on Zoom. It's really easy to do, and it's really fun. Holiday cards. You can send a massive amount of emails very quickly to people, and you can start in November just saying happy holidays. You don't have to say what holiday it is, but you can send it for like 6 weeks and send it to all the people on your list. You can get together for coffees with people and so forth. But this is my favorite, and I'm going to have you do it real quick right now. I'd like you all to take out your cell phones. And people are going, what is a lull? A lull is a period of time when you're held hostage and you can't do anything else. You're at the car wash, your car's being washed, and you're sitting there waiting for it. 10, 15 minutes, right? You're held hostage. You're at the doctor's office and they're running behind, and you're sitting there waiting. And there's, you always see people on their phones, but they're just scrolling, and then, they have no intentions when they're on the phone necessarily. But if you take advantage of these lulls by going through your contacts and finding people you haven't connected with in a while, and lobbing some texts that just say, I was just thinking about you, how are you doing? It'll be very productive time. So right now, I'm going to pick a letter of the alphabet. I'm going to pick a M, and I want you to go to the M's in your contacts and start scrolling through the M's and find someone you haven't talked to in a few months, a year, few years. I don't care what it is, as long as you've got an email or a text number for them. And I want you to just say, I was just thinking of you. How are you doing? Those exact words, nothing else. And then you can hit send. I'm going to give you all a few minutes to do this. And then put your phone on vibrate. And if we had more time at the end of this, we get about a 50% hit rate on these practically before the end of our classes. But if you're at a doctor's office or a car wash or anywhere else where you're sitting there just killing time, and you start doing these, you'll connect with a lot of people that you haven't connected with. So don't think that this has to be a really tough task reaching out to all these people. There's a million ways to do it. Make it a game. Decide, you're going to do this group of people this way, another group another way. But it'll all be interesting activities, and I promise you it'll reap, rewards. So you can put your phones down now. So managing your contacts. Now you take all of these names that you came up with, you download it into Excel, you can add it to your LinkedIn contacts and doing the same thing. I think I've added all of this already. I think I've already said all this. Okay. So the strategy. So one of the things too is when you do start talking to people about, what you are looking for, and of course that's, at the appropriate time, do be specific. Sometimes people are way too vague about what they're looking for, and you make your contact have to think for you. And you don't want to do that. Be really specific. I'm looking for a, COO role for a company that's between $300 and $500 million. That's in the technology space. that's growing or on an acquisition trail, something that gives them keywords, because you don't know what word they're going to connect with. They're going, oh, acquisition. Oh, I do know some of those for companies doing acquisitions. Well, they're probably about that size. I mean, you can see how they're going to start thinking. But it'll give them words where they can think of companies, and then follow it up with, that same information, so that they've got it to think about as they start going through their own days. We have the Orange County Business Journal. I think you probably have some kind of business journal in Texas, or some kind of book of lists that lists all the businesses in your area. But you can develop your target list from a book of businesses, and I encourage you to have a target list, so that when somebody says, like, oh, what kind of companies are you looking at, or what companies specifically are you looking at, they can help you. Obviously, live opportunities, Indeed, LinkedIn, things that you see on company websites. You'll see specific opportunities, but you want to use those opportunities to reach out to people you already know, see who works there, or who used to work there, or who provides services to them that can make a difference for you. And make a spreadsheet for these target companies, list the company, the industry, your date of contact, and the notes that you put on there, and then go directly into your LinkedIn and look up the company in your LinkedIn and see. You may know people there right now, and you may not know it. When I was at RGP, people would come to me and say, do you know anybody at Jones Brothers? And I'm going, I don't know who's there. You don't know who's there all the time. You may have a long lost friend or an old neighbor that works there now. So you have to kind of look in LinkedIn, and it'll surface people that you might already know. And that makes, the point between A and B a lot shorter. Strategy, research the growth sectors in your area. They're different in different parts of the country, but the growth areas are the growth areas. They're hiring. In that book of lists, they frequently list the fastest growing companies. Well, if they're fast growing, that means they're, quote, hiring, right? All different kinds of things. Look at their websites and see if they've posted, where they're hiring. You may see a trend and a potential opportunity. Make a list of your top 10 employees that you'd like to work for, but do your homework. Look at their K's and Q's, look at press releases maybe from that might be posted about them, look at the management team, the board of directors, see if there's people there might be articles that were in the paper about their growth plans or their mission statements, and then look on your LinkedIn to see who might know them. So these are all doing your homework. Don't make other people do it for you, and it'll give you a lot more focus on the efforts that you're making. These are the health sectors that were booming in the height of the pandemic. I think they probably changed a little bit, but they definitely always different sectors. This is a kind of strategy. You can modify this to work for you, but daily, make at least 10 lull texts, 10 a day. It would take you 5 minutes. Maybe pour your coffee in the morning and do it while you're drinking your coffee. And then maybe on a daily, you research some contacts. Weekly, reach out to 2 to 4 people from each of the different categories on your matrix. Again, all you have to do is send something that says, just was thinking of you, how are you doing? I mean, if they reach back out, they'll say, what brought up my name? You can say, I was just looking at the list of people I used to work with, and your name popped in my head. And then weekly, post something or reply to something on LinkedIn. Monthly, plan 5 different little gatherings, virtual or not, from that list of things, of ways to get together with people. Sundays, this is a day to actively practice gratitude. Think of who made a difference that week, this past week in your life, and send them a note saying, thanks for what you did for me this week. It was really appreciated. It doesn't have to be a long letter. It doesn't have to be mushy. It can be quite simple. And you might just keep a running list of the things you're grateful for. It's actually a very nurturing and healthy kind of exercise. So I encourage you to do that. And then don't ask for people's help. because their eyeballs roll back in their head. They go, oh, here it comes. But ask them to coach or advise you. It has a whole different context and it just feels more engaging. Also, I just always love to point out about Zoom, make sure you've got good lighting and they can see your face and that you're looking directly into the camera. And I see so many people that are looking down at their monitor and I wind up my whole conversation looking at the top of their heads or up their nose. And you've all been there. Make sure that's not you. Be sure you refer, circle back with referral sources and let them know I got in touch with that person. Thank you so much. Nothing turned out, but I appreciate the referral. Or this was the results. Thank you, thank you, thank you. But just let them know what happened. Keep your family in the loop. When you're in transition and looking for a job, sometimes it's stressful in the house and you wonder what you're doing to look for a job. But it's always helpful to show them what you're doing. Show gratitude to everybody. It will keep you healthy and happier, and will do a lot of good for other people. Check your spam and junk folder if the stuff winds up there, and just get in the habit of thanking people all the time. The act of showing gratitude just pays dividends in a million ways. Here's some books that I recommend. I'm not going to go through them, but they're all really helpful and interesting. And that's it. So at this point, I'm ready to take some questions.
Wonderful presentation. Can we get your slide deck, please?
All right, that's our presentation. Carrie, I'm sorry, the slide deck is not available, but you will be able to go back and watch this video at your convenience. It'll be up on the Career USA YouTube channel later tonight. So
Okay.
The deck is not available. All right, I know we're sort of running way over in our time here, so let me just share a few more slides. We'll get out of here. Career FW and Career USA, we're putting on training 4 days a week. Please join us. Tomorrow morning, Jeff Crilly, an Emmy award-winning news reporter, used to be with Fox 4. We'll be talking about free publicity, a great little story about how he turned writing a book into a multi-million-dollar public relations firm that he now has. So very interesting story. Join us tomorrow morning, 9:30 a.m. Central. We do meet in person, so if you'd like to join us, you can do it in person. Or if you're outside the DFW area, you can join us on Zoom or Facebook. Next Tuesday for LinkedIn Tuesdays, Ruth Lipsky will be with us to talk about how to drive recruiters to your LinkedIn profile. On Wednesday, you'll be able to watch an actual practice interview from the pit crew. Every Wednesday, we talk about interviewing. It'll be on Zoom only. It will not be recorded. So if you want to watch it, you do need to watch it live. And then next Thursday, we've got a really good presentation next Thursday at this time slot. Rick Gillis will be with us to talk about accomplishments, what, wow, and the accomplishment-based resume. This is really a different way to think about how to prepare a resume that you're submitting online and how to submit a resume when you're submitting it to a person. So please come join us next Thursday. Mark it down your calendar. This will be a really, really great presentation. If you'd like to join the Career FW or Career USA LinkedIn groups, you're welcome to join one or both. This session has been recorded. It will be on the Career DFW Facebook page and the Career USA YouTube channel. It'll take a couple hours for YouTube to get it uploaded, but it'll be up there later tonight. On the Career USA YouTube channel, just click on playlist. We have over 500 videos posted there. If you click on playlist, then click on view full playlist, down where you see that red circle underneath networking, up will come a list of all the different dates and topics and titles, and you can go back and watch any video that you'd like at your convenience. If you're not receiving emails about our workshop, pull out your phone, scan the QR code, it'll generate an email, just hit send. You don't have to put anything in the email. Or you can just send an email to Career USA, the +subscribe at groups.io. You'll never be spammed, but what we will get is the topic of the day, the title of the day, and most importantly, the Zoom link of the day. Please note, Career FW, we're a 501c3 nonprofit organization. We have no full or part-time employees. All of our speakers are volunteers. I'm a volunteer. Everything I've done over the last 14.5 years has just been to help you land your next great opportunity. So thank you very much for joining us today, everybody. Have a great Thursday. Hopefully we'll see you tomorrow morning at the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group.